I'm going to now share a demo on a book recommendation AI engine, and this is a concept that you can use when you're building your own AI apps or web apps. We're basically building one discrete piece or a part of the system. Now, this can work into a bigger system or be a standalone. I'm using it right now as a standalone. So let me explain the process. What we do here is in Chrome, we're taking the user's voice, which I'll show you in a second, and we're going to convert that to an AI request and take the response from that AI and send it to Google Books API to get a bunch of books. Now, it's written like this, it's coded, so that you can speak generally about what you're interested in, and the AI will summarize that based on the interest that it finds in the content that's sent. So once this gets sent to AI, we take the response back, and then we send it to the Google Books API. It starts by clicking the green button, and then that will suddenly turn to red, which will blink a little quicker. And when that's blinking quicker, that means we're recording. Below that line is the transcription, so you can see what I'm recording. And then once I hit 40 words, it will automatically stop and submit the information, or I can click stop anytime before. So I'm going to let it run through. So here we go. Last night I was thinking I was spending too much money on groceries, and I was wondering if I could start growing my own food and if that would be easier and help. Okay, so now that is going to AI, it's coming back, and it's giving us recommendations based on what AI thought was the most important information that the user just said. And as you can see, we have a few interesting things. And the idea with the book recommendation engine is that you're going to get some book recommendations that are related that you might not have thought of, instead of just searching for home gardening or growing a garden in your home. And if I click any of the books, you of course can see a summary of it. Next, I want to take you to the app on the code and show you how it's working. Now that we're in the code section, just bear with me. It's going to be a little bit more technical, but if you'd like to see how it works, stick around, or you can just rewatch the first part of this video. Once we get into the code, the first things we want to do is actually just start up the servers. So React is the front end, and we need to start that development server, and that's what this command will do. The waitress server handles the backend connection to Flask, so I need to start that server as well, so I'll run that command. And the server that acts as the gateway is Nginx, and I will also start that server. Once they're all running, we can take a look at the code. The code is broken up into two parts, the front end and the back end, which doesn't say back end, but it's every piece of code that's outside of this, which includes the Nginx configuration file, the waitress server app, and the run file to run the waitress app itself. Just take a quick look into front end. You can see the files here. And when we look at the home page, you can see that by heading down to the bottom, you can see that we have a container and we have text, get your free book, get a few book recommendations. We're checking for word count, the transcription section, and then the terms section. So when you build an app, basically you're looking for the smallest parts, and React helps us set that up in the front end on what the person would see in the web browser by breaking it into components. These are React functional components. I mentioned the process before, where we take the user's text that's submitted inside of Chrome, convert that text, and send it over to OpenAI. Let me show you how that's done. That's done in the back end, because React will process this information and call the back end and send that information over. And we'll have that being sent in app.py. This is the Flask server information. And I just want to show you that request. It's right here. Call OpenAI. So this is going to call the OpenAI API, and it's going to actually send that prompt right there. So this is where prompt engineering comes in. You will process the following user text as an expert in human needs and inferences. Convert this paragraph into the real user intent and purpose of this content. And it says your answers will be used for the field mapping of an advanced Google Books search. So that's what we're doing here. We're actually having ChatGPT, or the OpenAI model, convert this prompt and the user text that was recorded into some valuable information that's going to be sent back, and we're going to use that information to send to Google Books API. And that call is a little further down, and that's this one, fetch books. So we send the information over there, and then we take that response and we package it all up, everything that came back, the 8 books or so that are returned, and we know what their title, description, subtitle, authors, and so on about that, and that's how we build the information. Now, this is where GitHub or Git comes in handy because we basically want to track all the changes that we make. So if I ever make a change to this file and just say return the books, you can see in the top left now that there's a number 1. So I've saved that file. And if we look at this, you'll see that this file did change. And if I double click it, you can see that that change is noted for us. So tracking all the changes in Git is how we keep track of everything, and we can roll back our information if ever we need to. And if you wonder how do developers keep everything in their head, well, some of it they can, but some they can't. And what I found the simplest thing to do is to make a dedicated notes section. I use Obsidian, and I have sections for everything that I'm working in at all times, and I'm always adding to it, and it helps me remember the command. So as far as the waitress server that I mentioned, it's under servers, and if I ever want to do a test run or start it up, any information about that I would keep here. What's great about Obsidian also is I can search on all the tags and find any information that I want that's related to this. So this is how we keep track. That's the behind the scenes of the operation when you're developing. Once the code's running well and you want to start demonstrating it to others to get some feedback, it may not be a complete app, but it may have parts that are ready to be tested by other people. What you want to do is make it public. And a simple thing to do is to create an Amazon Lightsail instance on Amazon servers, and that's pretty simple. You just scroll down, pick the Linux and Unix, operating system only, Ubuntu, and for about $5 a month, you can have one small server for testing. I find this is a very inexpensive way to do it, and it's easy to share this because it has an IP address, so you can actually point people to the code. So development work is done, it's checked into Git, and when it's working well, this gets uploaded over to the server either weekly or every other week when stuff is ready to be tested. Once the instance is created, you can log into the account and take a look at the files, and as you can see, it's a little hard to see here, but it says book project. That's the file on the server, so I'm going to just move right into that. And then you can now see all the files that mimic what we had locally in the development environment. If you see here, there's front end, and there's the app pie and the run pie that I showed you before. So we're basically mimicking the local development server remotely, and then also setting up the servers of Nginx and the waitress so it actually can respond properly to the requests. So I hope you enjoyed this demo and a behind the scenes look. And if you're ready to start working on your app, get in contact with me and we'll go over and talk about the scope of your project.